and welcome to No Story Stagnates with me, Ernie Boxall. And it's my pleasure today to introduce Misty Compton. Misty, can you tell everyone who you are, where you are, and what you're doing at the moment?
Well, my name's Misty Compton, and I live in Colorado in the United States. I'm originally from Canada, but I've been living in Colorado for, I don't know, like 10 years at least, a while now. But I am a freelance writer. I write content and I write blog posts, and my main niche is lifestyle. So
Yeah.
I really enjoy just like the general lifestyle writing, but I'm open to trying whatever. And I'm also a social media marketer and manager. And I post regularly on social media. So for people who don't have time, I'm available. I can help you with that.
Beautiful, beautiful. First thing, I think the first question's got to be the name Misty. Where did it come from?
You know, to believe it or not, my dad actually named me after a lady who worked at Pizza Hut. The waitress was named Misty, and he loved that name. And so my parents decided to call me Misty.
Wow.
And I love it. I can't complain.
Did you ever meet her?
No, I never did. Nope.
Right.
It was a one-time thing.
Yeah, yeah. So lovely. So what I say then, Misty, is that you know how your story started. Do you know how your mother and father met?
Yes, I sure do. It's an interesting story, actually. My mom met my dad during a tragic life event. She was actually dating my dad's brother, and he actually drowned after falling off of a boat.
Right.
And so my mom and dad ended up growing like really close together, and they eventually got married.
Well, that, Misty, it puts you in the situation of where would I have been if, doesn't it?
Yeah,
which
it does.
I think it puts most of us in that situation as well. But there again, so you know how your story started from before you were born. If we could take, or if you could take a story between the ages 1 and 10, which you remember now, which made a real impact on you, what would that story be?
You know, it's kind of a funny story too.
Good.
I had to be like maybe 5 years old, and it's just something that's been sitting in my head. It just randomly pops up. But I was sitting on my great mammare's lap, and a mammare is a great grandma in Canada for people who don't know. And she was rocking in her rocking chair like she normally did, and I was sitting on her lap, and we're just talking about life and aging. And I happened to look down at her arm, and it was like her arm's kind of sagging. And so I put my hand on her arm, and with concern on my face, I asked my mammare, I say, "Do wrinkles hurt, mammare?" And like ever since then, I don't know, like it just kind of brings like some laughter and positive to my life. But it's like in that, yeah, in that moment, I was like, I remember her, like her laughter and her whole body just shaking. And she's like, no, wrinkles don't hurt. And it's, it's just part of getting older. And it's like, I kind of learned that it's like, getting older is just natural, and it's a part of life, and wrinkles don't hurt.
No, there we go. Lots of things, but not wrinkles. Wonderful. Wonderful. And that first 10-year period, Misty, what were you like at school? How did school life go for you?
School life was really good for me. I've always been kind of like that, the good student. My mom would always tell me, I'm not an average student. I don't get C's. So she'd make me get A's and B's, which makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, it was good. It was good.
And did you develop then this love of writing, of stories, of things like that? Or did it come later? Right.
I used to love reading, and I loved writing all these stories. Like I'd make up stories and just write about them. Most of them were more like not on real things. Like it's just kind of made up stories. Like I had a trap door under my bed, and it was almost like escaping to Narnia. I don't know if you've heard of the movie, but that's what it was kind of like.
Yeah.
but it's like I'm getting back into the reading books and the writing, and I just absolutely love it.
Good, good. And if we can just jump a little bit ahead, then ages 11 to 20, you must have had one or two stories in that age group.
I have plenty of stories in all age groups. So unfortunately, my parents are divorced, but my stepdad really took us in.
Yeah.
He met my mom in Canada when we were living there, and that's how we moved to Colorado.
Right.
Is that we took the trip from Canada to Colorado, moving in with my stepdad. And the interesting thing that happened is that the same thing happened in university, where it's like I was I was in a house where everything was known, and then I had to leave to go to the unknown. It was the same thing with leaving Canada, and everything and every person I knew behind. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's the big story in
Yeah.
those years, is just leaving the known behind and going into the unknown, which is super, super scary.
Yeah.
But I think that that's the only way to really grow, is like you're starting over and over again, you
Yeah.
know?
Do you believe that the lessons you learned during that period helped, or have they hindered a little bit as you've gone in life?
I think at first it kind of hindered a little bit,
Okay.
just because change for me was really hard. But I think I've grown pretty wise over
Uh-huh.
the years, just having to restart over and over again, and just learning, I think it's helped me in the
Good.
long run.
Good. And during that time, that second period, again, I take it you enjoyed learning, you enjoyed school, did you? Or did it go the other way? Did you find any problems at that age at school or university?
Um, going through school in general, like between 11 and 20-ish,
Yeah.
I was a really great student and I love classes. Like, I'm like, oh man, if I could just be a student for life. And so it's almost like what I'm doing now. It's like writing. It's like I'm just a
Absolutely.
student for life now. I just write and I'm like, awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I feel like I did really well in school during those years. I think college is where things got really bumpy. I grew up in a really strict household. So when I
Uh-huh.
went to college, I kind of went a little crazy.
Right. Yeah.
I still got good grades. I still got great grades, actually. I got A's and B's still, but
Yeah.
just like the life experiences in college that
Yeah.
you go through, and understanding all these parts is what really like was really difficult.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Were you involved in any sport or any clubs while you were there?
Yes, I love running. I was in
Oh,
track, I was in cross country.
wow.
I was the captain on the cross country team.
Wow.
And for track, I ran for 4 years all throughout high school, and then I ran in eighth grade as well. But
Uh-huh.
running and exercise is a really important thing for me. I struggle with some mental health problems, and so
Yeah.
it's like it really, really helps me level out like my emotions and
Yes.
just focus and take care of myself. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Were those hobbies, those sports, were they different in Canada? Did you have a different focus in Canada as to when you went to Colorado? In terms of maybe in Canada, were you able to train in cities or in the wilderness?
So since I was fairly young in Canada, I didn't really do running or
Okay.
sports. I didn't learn the whole track world until I moved to Colorado.
Uh-huh.
I played soccer and I did swimming courses in Canada, but yeah, the whole track thing really developed in Colorado.
And was that at a college in Colorado or at a school?
It was at school. It was Brighton High School
Uh-huh.
in Colorado. It was
Great.
good.
Lovely. 21 to 30, Misty. Stories and lessons.
So those years were the hardest years, I think.
Right.
A lot of life changes happened. Some things kind of broke down with like family members. And I think a big thing too was like the whole career and my job path was so lost.
Yes.
You know, I over-identified in my job and career. I was always told in our culture, it's like, you know, you go to school, you get a degree, and when you get out, you're great. Like everything's great for the rest of your life. You're going to be happy in your job and you're going to work for 20, 25 years and then you're going to retire. Nobody's going to remember your name and then you're going to die. It sounds depressing, but that's
Yeah.
kind of like what I grew up on. And it's like I'm realizing that now that for one, you don't want to over identify yourself in one thing.
No,
Because if you lose that one thing, you lose yourself.
definitely.
And that was a big lesson I learned. That and going after my passion and what I really enjoy, which is writing. You know,
Yes.
I work in an office setting right now, and I just enter data into a computer, which for me, it kills my creativity. So I'm
Right.
like, oh gosh, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. You know, I just
Yeah.
don't feel like me. And so it's just on this journey, I've realized that I've never really fit in.
Right.
And you know, going after your passion is what really matters. So
Yeah.
I've learned quite a bit in the 20s.
And going after your passion, did that cause any problems with work, with finding work, with keeping work, anything like that? 'Cause I'll hold my hands
So,
up. I'll hold my hands up, Misty. I must have had 20 or 30 jobs in my life. I've rarely had a job for very long because I am, even in my head, I'm a traveler. I want to go to the next great adventure. And so that mentality has meant that I've moved, physically moved, and also mentally moved from one stage to the next quite quickly. Would that resonate at all?
100%. I feel exactly the same. Like I've jumped so many jobs. I can't stand just one. I've been through every field out there. I think just really searching for what I truly enjoyed, and I just couldn't find it out there.
No,
I seriously couldn't find it. So I'm like, well, what if I create it? You know, what if I'm an entrepreneur and I just become my own writer, my own boss, you know?
brilliant.
And it works. This is what I'm meant to do.
Yeah, yeah. Have you got a couple of, perhaps a story in the 20s that would bring that out? Was there a time when you really felt that?
Yeah, you know, last year was really rough on me. Um, like we kind of like I had a lot of family problems,
Uh-huh.
and so all of last year I just started writing. I wrote all of my pain out on paper and
Yeah.
really expressed how I was feeling because I'd always hold it all inside and
Uh,
it had nowhere to go. And so I was just writing and writing and I created my own website and I like started typing everything in there. I wrote for a year straight
right.
and I was going to start like just writing on negative things though. And I'm like, well, the world's full of negative stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, why would I want to add more negative to the world? So
Uh-huh.
that's where I kind of changed paths and I'm like, let's be inspirational. Let's be motivational.
Right.
Let's teach people the lessons I've learned myself. So
Great.
it's like last year is what I learned to really go after that writing passion.
And again, I identify with that a little bit, Misty, because I went through a period between 18 and probably 22. I had been in America. I'd met my pen friend. We'd been writing for 4 years and we'd fell in love by airmail letter. I went over and it didn't go well. It didn't go as I wanted. So when I came back, I was probably at my lowest, which meant that at any particular moment, a sentence would come into my head, and then the next sentence, and the next sentence, and it was poetic. And I didn't think about it, I'd write it down, and one would flow after the other. As soon as the first sentence is there, the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and the poem would be written in 20 minutes. And then I'd move on. A couple of months would go by, and I'd go through another period where another sentence came. and another, and that happened for over about 4 years. And then at about 22, things started to go right. And I lost that ability. Those sentences failed to come. So it looks as if I needed, or I need, that period of the dark cloud over my head to get that sentence to come for the first time. So I sort of understand what you're saying there. So in that last year, and I take it, have you got stories between 30 and 40, Misty, or are you not there yet?
Not there yet.
Okay.
Hopefully I stay in my 20s a little longer. I got a few more years.
So what change have you noticed in yourself over that last year?
To stay true to who I am, even how hard it is, just to stay who you are. I mean, it's sometimes hard because not everybody wants to believe in you and accept you for who you are. And sometimes you lose people in life because of it.
Yeah.
It's sad, but I mean, I think that's just part of who I am. It's like just staying true to who I am and what I enjoy, and, just having faith that everything's going to work out,
Uh-huh. And you mentioned faith. Do you mean faith as in faith religion, or just faith in yourself?
A little bit of both. It's kind of, I used to be very, like, I used to get beat down really quickly when things didn't go as planned, or when things just didn't happen the way that I'd hoped them to. And so it's like I've had to learn that you just have to have faith and just believe that things are going to work out. And I think the law of attraction. Like, if you think positive, then positive things are going to happen. And so that's kind of where I'm at.
Right. And with that mindset, how was the virus affected you? Positive or negative?
I think it's been fairly positive. I don't feel like COVID really affected me that much, to be honest. Like,
no.
I think at the beginning it was a little stressful because everybody didn't know how serious it was, or like everybody was a little confused and the information was conflicting.
Of course.
But I feel like with COVID, I just felt like I got to keep my job, my corporate job.
Yes.
And so that was really, really helpful, because I know a lot of people out there lost their jobs. So I'm very thankful that I was able to keep my job through it all. And interesting enough, last year I actually got married, and I bought my first house.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there was like bad moments, but there's also a lot of good ones. So
Right.
I can't completely diss that year.
And again, no family yet, I take it.
Pardon me?
You have no family at the moment? No children?
Oh, no children. Nope.
No.
I have no children yet.
No.
Soon to be, eventually.
Of course. But even that change, having a husband now, how has that changed the dynamic of how you approach life?
Like, did COVID affect me negatively, or?
No, having a husband. Is that?
Oh, having a husband is a lot like dating. I mean, he's my best friend, and he supports me. You can see behind me, he's a firefighter, so that's where he's at today. He's working.
Right.
My
respects to him. Thank you for the service.
Oh, he loves his job. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But we're really supportive of each other, and I feel like, there's definitely some conflicts that happen in marriage, and you have that commitment, but I feel like it's a lot like dating. It's just one extra step.
Yeah, it's so important, Misty, because even in the entrepreneurial world, I'm an example. I put all of my experience and all of my focus on being a football coach, a soccer coach, to the detriment of my family, which meant that my partner left me and took my 2 daughters with her. But I'm the luckiest man alive. My partner talks to me. My daughters love me still. We're in contact almost all the time. So I know so many entrepreneurs, so many business people who have even not got that. They've lost that because the whole focus was on work. And even have you heard of shiatsu? Do you know shiatsu therapy?
I haven't heard of that.
It's a Japanese relaxation massage therapy. It's more than that, though, because with experience, we're able to, with our hands on the body, we're able to pick up the different tones sometimes you'll go into a body with your thumb maybe, and it will go in a long, long way. It's like it's empty. And then you'll move along the line and it'll be like stone, like rock. And we work to equalize, to fill up the empty and relax the hard. But even more than that, with experience, we learn to click into the emotions that might have caused that problem. And what comes from that is very much one of the reasons I started No Story Stagnates. Because on the first time I would see a patient or a client and we start going over their history, their answers would be very monosyllabic. Yes, no, don't know, not much. It was only after maybe the second or third visit, when they really trusted me to touch their body, that they would say, actually, when I was 8, I was abused, I was bullied, when I was 14, my parents split up, my father left. And it's only when they started to tell me that the healing really started. So my passion is to get people to talk about their stories so that then they are out there. They're no longer keeping them locked in. And I say to them that now you've got the space in there for new stories, but this time, because they haven't happened yet, you can decide whether to keep them locked in or whether to tell the world about them or just let them float over your head. And again, as soon as I've said that, business owners have sort of got that idea that it's the stories that we keep in that often cause trauma and self-doubt later on in life. So that's my passion. And what I would say to you now, Misty, is you really do have your book, don't you?
I really have my what?
Your book. You have.
Oh, like my story.
Your story and the lessons you've learned from it. That story and those lessons, if you were able to tell them to a live audience, you could almost guarantee that there'd be somebody in the audience like me who said, oh, I can connect with that story. It's happened to me, or it's happening now. And they will be the people that come up to you afterwards and say, Misty, I really appreciated what you said. Can we have a one-to-one, a meeting? You wouldn't even have to go and chase them. I found so often that people say, as soon as I told people my story, lots of people came and asked me about it. And that's worth more than a business card.
I totally agree.
Brilliant.
You know, I really appreciate what you do with the stories and what you have to say. I resonate with it, like you're saying. I mean, it's a connecting point.
Yes. Yeah. So before we do go, and thank you very much for that, the banner behind you, is that firefighting as well? 180?
Oh, wrong way. So that's just my husband's number for the year 2018 when he passed the academy. Right. And then 01 was just his class number. So
Oh, I thought it was some tribal element there. I mean, to be honest, Misty, you have a sort of tribal look to you. With any connection to native Canadian tribes or not?
You know, my grandma had told me I'm part Iroquois Indian, but I mean, I did the ancestry test, the
Yeah,
like ancestry.com test,
yeah,
and I've got 65% French, which makes sense.
yes,
I've got some Italian and some Irish and Scottish and
yeah,
a few other things mixed in there, but yeah, I guess I'm a mutt.
yeah. No, but you do feature very much native faces. And I would say also that with the experiences that you've gone through and also your love of stories it would point towards some kind of native ancestry in there somewhere. So thank you very much. Before we go, Misty, how can people get in touch with you?
If anybody's looking for a writer or social media manager, they can email me, sorry, at misty.compton3@gmail.com. And if they feel like it, feel free to check out my website. It's www.corecavity.com.
We'll put these in the chat. When what happens now, Misty, it will go to my video producer. It will then go in line. So it might be a week or two, if that's okay. And then it'll be up on my channel. But in the meantime, would it be okay if we keep in touch?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes, for sure. You know, I really appreciate you and everything that you're doing. And I just feel like there's some people out there that are very connected to who they are. And I feel like you're one of those people that are okay with sharing anything and everything with who you are because it helps people. I mean, it really does.
Yeah. And I've got to be honest, Misty, that's come through telling stories. I hadn't got a clue who I was until I started telling stories. That's who I am.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Misty. Take care. Don't leave straight after. Let's have a minute together after the interview.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very much.